Ready for episode 0? So what is Portrait Stone? What is episode 0? And what are we going to be doing going forward? So everything has to do with animating our avatars. So from the ground up, we're starting from scratch basically with Blender, and we're going to build it. I'm going to show you step by step how to construct it, rig it, animate it, and we're going to move forward hopefully in many ways to make kind of video game scenarios realistic into the future using IPFS, interplanetary file system, making them into NFTs with the FBX file format, which I'm going to show, and all the things that are going to be needed to do this. And we're gonna work together. We're going to learn. I'm going to show you what I've already learned, and I'm going to hopefully show you into the future very quickly how we can move forward and make these avatars exist in the virtual world just how we do in the real world, or simulated very close, so they can possibly live on into the future past us, like us. So without further ado, let us begin with episode 0, shall we? All right, here we are with the first vertical slice, and we're going to start with hopefully a good score. We're going to be grading on a curve, like you know, so of the 22, someone's going to get an A and someone's going to get an F, and that's just the way the curve goes. Okay, like I said, we have 22. Always going to have the pose, the T-pose. That's how we start. That's 0. Just like episode 0. So that's how that all starts. And I have all of these all the way to number 22. So we're going to go with the first one, which is the run. First thing you notice probably is the color, the skin color. Over here under shading, I do have it as a color ramp between these colors I chose here. So it can switch, but the difference here, we have a base color and a subsurface color, so it has that kind of skin quality. That's how you do it. Increase the specular and the roughness. And you can choose any color you want, but this is kind of a, avatar-ish color I find interesting, at least, to start with. And so let's start. You can see if where are we here? We're in the run. You can see the kind of animation key points I had to get to it. Here we're slow on the frame rate, and that's why it's in red. It's a lot of power to animate it. But the key here with the run, which is important for us in reality, is to land on the balls of your feet. That is the key here with this run. Until you master that, really running, is a pain. Pain in the knees, pain in everywhere. And this is not easy. It is very difficult, but it's important to understand that is really the first goal, is to be able to run on the balls of your feet, and increasing with weight as well, like weights, external weights. And I don't mean like rucking where you have lots of weight on your back. I'm not talking about that. But the idea of how to start running and what that entails. That's my recommendation, at least. And so, again, this is the first vertical slice, and on a curve, we're going to start taking notes to see where it lands, and we'll tally at the end. I'm not doing it, you are, but let's see how this one fares with the rest as an animation and as a reality to follow. Let's move on to the next, shall we? All right, here we are, number 2, the push-up. Again, this is super core. You may have noticed some of these weird visual purple screen. I am preferring to clean up the audio, and it does sacrifice the video quality. I am running that through Cakewalk, which is a great audio program, but it does kind of degrade the video a little bit. That is a sacrifice. I prefer higher quality audio. It's always, I think, it's a deal breaker. That's how I see it, even though the video may be sacrificed. But again, we're here to talk about the push-up. I'm going to press play, and as you can see, with the 22 frames, a push-up is pretty basic. It's all about your discipline. You want to hold. That's the key. Up, hold, down, hold, right? 90 degrees. If we look at the front, it's there is a twisting that does occur with the hands. Your feet placement. You want to keep your back straight, but the key here is to hold. I mean, that really is the key, and keep the count. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Right? That's how the push-up should go. Again, on a scale of a curve, on a scale graded on a curve, it's your question to answer. Where does it go? And we'll continue with the vertical slices, shall we? Let's on to the next. All right, here we are for number 3, the V-up. The V-up, right? What is the V-up? We have seen a whole bunch of versions of that. But the key, this is something that I have been doing for many, many years. This is, to me, core. It is the core, obviously, your core, but it is the way to work the core. So as you can see here, the positioning is the key, right? You are stretched out, hands up, and then hands down below the butt, and you lift the butt in the air, slightly off the ground, not in the air, but off the ground, right? Legs are in the air. These are very, very subtle movements, as you can see, very subtle movements in reality, but this works. When you try it, you'll see. Like, don't cheat, do it this way, and you will see how difficult really it is. If you cheat, it's very easy, but if you do it exactly like this, it is very difficult. And so the discipline comes in play. So this is the V-up. When I say the V-up, this is what I'm referring to. This is the reality of how we should do things. So the question again, on a curve, where would this go? Right? Very basic, very simple. But you tell me. And in a vertical slice, this has a very unique position in context with the rest of all the animations. All right? And with that, you know what comes next? The next. Here we are with the oblique, really the internal oblique, right? The key here, as you can see on this video, on this animation, I have a huge rotation that occurs to get into the oblique position. But the key here is that you have a horizontal, position, some elevated somehow, and you are lowering your body to the side to do this. And the repetitions are not including the rotation. So if I were to grade this on a curve, it would not, we'd wonder which end of the curve it would be on for these animation structures on the vertical slice. But that is not to take away from the core principle of the internal oblique. It is super critical. I mean, this is the most understated exercise to do. And it really, the animation, even if I didn't have the rotation, wouldn't do it justice, because the key here is how it feels to isolate the internal oblique. It is not the external one. It is this one underneath in the back, lower back, underneath the main one that most people can feel if you were just to touch the exterior of your body in the area of the side, right over here. Not much movement, really. That's probably why I had the rotation to get the idea of to get into position. But the key is to focus on it, however you can do that. And it is, you do need a contraption to do that. On the ground, on the side, isn't going to work, as you can tell. If you have to go down instead of lifting up, you need to be in an elevated position with the feet attached, hooked in somehow. And there, obviously at the gym, there's apparatus for that. There's not many options unless you get your own apparatus for home, which I do have, because that's how critical this internal oblique is. Aside from that, more vertical slices to come. Shall we continue? All right, here we are with number 5, the pull-up. How critical is the pull-up? You can live your whole life exercising and never do a pull-up, but there are little weird things that may happen day to day because of it, right? So the key here that I'm showing, at least, is part of the idea of the hang, right? So there's a stretching of the whole torso that occurs, even though this is a kind of a back exercise, right? All the little tiny muscles in between the ribs are used. And on this one, I am showing that we are dropping down to the ground to relieve the stress. But really, you can hang, lift the legs, hold, right, and continue. And the idea isn't, to do as many as you can short distance, really to get that hang down and a hold up, just like the push-up. It's a super critical way, and getting this done every day, a little bit, not many really. There's the most you can do is way less than the most you can do of push-ups and V-ups, if you've ever tried to really compare volume over quality, right? This is a very difficult exercise to do. It's like we're not built to do it, but yet it is a critical thing to do. So as you can see, get that full hang, and try and do as many as you can. With that, I think the score is pretty average on animation, and it's a pretty average workout, but it is critical. I think super critical, and something to not forget about in what we do every day. All right, on to the next. Here we go for number 6, the squat. Pretty basic, yeah, in theory. It's up, down. But the key here, hold. Again, very difficult to do, but hold at the bottom, hold at the top, and you can see the hand positions implying there's a bar on the back to hold on to. That can be difficult. You can use different lengths, weights, but weight is important. Doing a weightless squat, is okay, but really this is something that weight is key here. And you can see a little weird thing going on with the foot position. I did not inherit rotation on these videos, and we're going to go over all of how to make these characters. That's the whole point. But to go through kind of the series of why are we making these avatars, and that these are to replicate real life. And this is the kind of real life we should be living, is doing these kinds of exercises every day. So again, the squat, hold, up, down, have some weight on the back. It is a challenge. And if anyone's wondering, that's correct. This is the date, took some time to do some work, and skin tone test. That's what this is, right? There is trying to figure out here what is the best way to render skin tone on these animations. And even though it's blue-ish, it does kind of have a kind of resemblance. There is more we can go through, and I will walk through in the future with the rest of these episodes. Enough time taken wherever this lands on the curve. On to the next vertical slice, shall we? All right, number 7, the overhead. What is the overhead? This is like an exercise that's not an exercise, but it's super critical, right? Carrying, I mean, there's the deadlift idea, but we don't want to overdo it with the weight. We do want to lift weight up over our head and to hold it, right? I mean, holding weight over the head, this is a core exercise. It's understated, but it's very critical. You can see in the animation, I do have the feet moving apart here. I was trying to get the idea of kind of spreading out to balance yourself, which you will do in reality. The front to back, if to move the feet back, is something that may happen. But again, with the 22 frames and looping here, that's kind of where I stopped to focus on really the idea of getting the hands in the right position and up and hold. And it is about verticality and a knee position, and the inherent rotation again is not something, you are going to plant your feet heels down. You do not want to be on the balls of your feet for this. This is something you do want to be as planted as possible in reality when doing. So balance is key, super key, and to not lean over, not lean back, and to get this balance right. Where does this land on the curve? Ready for the next vertical slice? Let's continue. All right, here we are, number 8, the curl. Pretty basic. We continue the ideas of foot planting, which you see did not inherit rotation, so there is that awkward foot position. But you do want to be planted as before. And the key here again is full hang, and then the lift. You will rock. You want to minimize, but because of the hang, you are going to have some interesting. Let's see here. You are going to lean over, and it's for balance. So just to recognize that. And here I don't even have a full hang, but you want to do that as much as possible. If you have a corrugated bar, it may be difficult, which you prefer. I mean, most would prefer. And then different bars, you can use different options there. I do recommend as heavy as possible and as many repetitions as possible. But the key here is to hold while doing it. You're not just cranking out numbers. You want to hold, right? Do the right thing when no one is looking. Because when someone's looking and you're cranking numbers, it doesn't look good. You may think think so, but this is not true. And by the way, I haven't been to the gym since the lockdown, and I'm not going back. This is all at home, focused. I guess is the future. This is how we're going to do things. And let's make sure our avatars are going to represent the lives we live now. Anyway, where does this one stack on the curve? On to the next slice, shall we? All right, number 9, the stairs. Stairs are pretty much self-explanatory. And for that reason, I think the animation suggests something else is going on. I have a spiral. It's not a spiral, but it sure does look like one. This is the root bone here, and you can see I do have it kind of rotating around. If we do look, I want to continue the animation, from above, you can see it's all over the place. I mean, what kind of stairs are those? But this is a result of working with animation. You see on the left here, without all the bones. It's kind of a combination of real stairs and the stair stepper machine scenario. So the idea is, in reality, you want to do, climbing stairs is a workout. And we do have stairs designed in different ways for ease of stepping. In some public places, it's actually harder. You want to skip steps. So the reality is, in stairs is a kind of a weird one, where you live, where you work, out on in public streets, where how stairs are spaced can make this challenging. But the idea is to get that verticality, stepping up one, down, back one. You know, that's really not, I've done many of those. It is good and bad. I mean, do as much as you can, but really if you can continue just climbing stairs vertically, and hopefully take an elevator down. I don't recommend the down as an exercise, but on the up for sure, right? You know, walked in the snow to school, uphill both ways kind of scenario, if you can. Running down a hill is different, but climbing stairs, you know, that can be tricky on the knees. But anyway, the point is this is on the curve, literally. Where? You tell me. Shall we continue to the next vertical slice? Onward. Let's continue. All right, here we are. Number 10, the roll. The roll is exactly that. Back and forth, back and forth. On the ground, you know, this looks, it looks like what it is, but to do the repetition of rolling around on the ground, you know, it's something, I don't recommend it every day, but it is something to practice. It does mess with your orientation. So when it comes to the kind of balancing yourself physically and also in your brain, right? Your inner ear. It does have an effect. So trying to maintain that flow, especially in the morning, when you're all discombobulated, this definitely can help remind you of the human condition. But this is something, you know, in the Army, I kind of learned it's silly. Try doing this with 100 people in unison. Very difficult, very difficult. But it's silly. But at the same time, it is something that will get a physical, there is a physical workout to it. Also the low crawl, which I'm not going to go over. But it is something you may want, if you are doing this, something to try. This was a little more of a down and dirty kind of exercise, and all the others that go along with it. So that's the roll. Where does that stack on the curve? And on to the next vertical slice. Here we are, number 11, the burpee. This one has history. It's legendary, right? You want to get down, you want to get up, and how many times you can do it is your score. I never burped more because of it. I got more burping out of out of running, really, and then doing sit-ups after that. But the burpee, even though there is a huge core component, it's a lot of different things combined. You can see here, I do have this leaning back going on. That's really a result of the animation stepping back into position. If we go here to number 3, you can see, I'm trying to stay with the root bone on this. This one, again, as you can see, the frame rate slowing down here. This is when it's in red. This is bad. It should be around 29 frames per second. It's rendering, animating at 4. This is because this is just a heavy, and this is the reason I reduced the amount of bones. It's a heavy, heavy way of working on. My computer is not slow. So just like the burpee, you'll start to slow down. You wanna keep going and get that jump, right? You can see the hands up in the air above. That's part of the routine. So tell me, how is this stack on the curve? Let's continue to the next vertical slice. All right, here we are, number 12, the mountain climber. The mountain climber is a strange one. As you can see, even I have it animated in a strange way as he's stepping back, leaning back to get back on his feet. The mountain climber is like rotated 90 degrees because when you're climbing vertically, you're not laying down, you're not facing down. But the idea is to get the legs up as a core, kind of a core exercise. But the repetition of the legs up, back, and in and out towards the torso. So it's not a burpee. You just continue to do as many as you can horizontally. The knees can kind of flare out a little bit, and to get around the torso. But the key here is this one is repetition. As many as you can do is really the key. Is quantity over quality, because just to maintain a proper balance, you're going to have to do a certain quality, and so just keep it up. Do as many as you can. Once your knees start scratching the ground, you are at the end, my friend. But tell me, how does this score on the curve? Because we have more to go. Let's on to the next vertical slice, shall we? All right, here we are, number 13, surfboarding. As you can see, the animation has picked up quite a bit. I restarted the computer. That's something you will have to do working with Blender when things start getting really heavy. So the frame rate is right where it should be. Because of that, now it's actually moving way quicker than we have in the previous videos here. But the key here with surfboarding is the getting up. You need to get up as quickly as you can, which actually works out quite well in this case to show, because that is the key, and then rotate into the wave depending on which foot you have forward. Obviously, rotating in towards your torso will be easier, and you can always lean back. Either way, in reality, that's an experience to be had, but in the animation in Blender, it's something to try and replicate, and this is one way of doing it. So you tell me how this lands on the curve. Shall we continue the next slice? All right, here we are, number 14, skateboarding. What's the key here? It's the foot position, right? I mean, when it comes to the animation and the real thing, maybe not at this speed in reality, but again, it is on loop. So if we kind of just focused on each movement, you kind of get a better idea of what you already know skateboarding to be like. And as you can see, we're getting the foot here under the ground, under the root of the other foot when it comes to the animation. So and then up high again. So in reality, this is more about mechanics of movement and more than exercise. But this would be one, and obviously, if you can, try and symmetrize yourself and do it on the other side. If you ever tried doing that, that is a challenge in its own right. Ambidextrous qualities, foot and hand, especially hand throwing, catching. Either way, this is skateboarding animated. And so you tell me again, what kind of video game would this be, right? Where does it lie on the curve? Let's continue to the next vertical slice. All right, here we are, number 15, wakeboarding. Wakeboarding is an interesting one. The key here, if you've ever tried this, and I recommend skydiving, scuba diving, things to do. Wakeboarding, getting out of the water is the key. So here I have our avatar laying down. That's right here. He's falling into the water, but laying down here on frame 3. That's how you start, and really you're going to be curled up more in a ball to get your feet up. But the idea is once you holding on to the rope, once you to get up and not continue over flying like Superman, diving into the water with a gulp full of water, and you better wear a life vest. I got to tell you that it's challenging. But once you're up, it's as fun as surfing in a different kind of way. But as you can see here, I have them wiping out. So wakeboarding, in a video game, this definitely, I think, will be very interesting because you have two dynamics, maybe a team dynamic. So that's something to consider with the wakeboarding and how to pair up. Challenging, but that's something we're gonna try and overcome all challenges as we make these avatars. As you can see, frame rate slowing down. So tell me, how does this rate on the curve? Shall we continue to the next vertical slice? All right, here we are, number 16, snowboarding. We all know snowboarding. Many of us have done it and love it. And as we all know, one of the most important parts is getting off the ski lift. And we love skiing too. But getting off that lift, right? On skis, it's pretty straightforward. But on the snowboard, it's like never been off an aircraft carrier. But it's sure what I think it must be like. It kind of like you're going. Someone else presses the button. And you're in control after that. So I fail every time, I got to tell you, and I can, and I'll try everything and go fast. But getting off that lift is one hell of a challenge. You can see the foot position right here. That's the key. You're all rotated. You go from the sitting position, ejected and flying into the air. I know I'm making myself sound horrible when it comes to these activities, but this part is a challenge. It's its own in its own right. So what we've got here, and then the rest of it, of course, we know you're going to have jumps and half pipes, diving into the half pipe, which is, I got to tell you, aside from the sphere part, is more straightforward than getting off the lift here. But as an animation, you see I have the hand up as a cowboy on a bull. And maybe that's another one, bull riding. That might be an interesting avatar as well. Never done that, never been on mechanical, so really don't really have that kind of insight. But that would be interesting as well, 8 seconds, so we can frame rate that. That's a pretty straightforward, maybe interesting game. Not sure how the mechanic would work. Either way, tell me how this lines up on the curve. And let's continue on to the next vertical slice. All right, here we are, number 17, the peanut. The peanut is a punching bag. So really what we're doing is we're punching. Okay, so as you can see in these animations, I do not have the fingers curling. I do have it, I have pretty good hand here. This is all one mesh, how it was built. And again, we are going to go through how to make these. So I know the eyes are bizarre, but this was a kind of a way to render the entire body with one skin mesh, including the hands with the fingers. And they are curved a little bit to try and maximize all the possible uses. But so you would not punch this way, but the idea is to, each one of these is its own frame. The punch, the peanut, it's kind of a high speed, it's like a speed bag. It is a speed bag, but it's not linked directly from the bag. You have a bungee and rope, and it moves that's hand-eye coordination. That's the way to go, in my opinion. A lot more fun. But I don't have it animated here. You don't see the bag. I would love to work on getting some more animations in, but again, that just adds so much more weight, and which we want to have more in the game engine instead of in Blender. Even though it would be an asset, but we will go over making games, hopefully together in the future videos here in detail. So tell me, how does this one rank on the curve? Shall we continue to the next vertical slice? All right, number 18, the heavy bag. We all know the heavy bag, you put all your weight into it, you put your foot back, and you punch. Again, same situation with the hand movements. One frame, it is a little strange. At the end here, I have them hanging on the bag, right? Kind of like, how do you end working on the heavy bag is hanging on the heavy bag. This is for animation purposes, right? If you think about it, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to hand back and forth, right? I mean, try and put it simulating kind of the mass. How much mass can you throw into another object, a collision of rigid bodies? And so, in a game, I'm not sure how realistic this would be used, how you would play gameplay-wise with a heavy bag scenario, but it is relevant. I mean, the idea of that simulating that mass. How do you do that? All right. So again, here on this curve, we have to put it somewhere. So you tell me, where should it go on the next vertical slice? All right, here we are. Number 19, jump rope. Look at this. I'm not going to open it up because it does get weird, so I don't want to waste time on the video. But each one of these hand movements is a single frame, back and forth, up and down actually. So jumping rope, right? So you're on your toes, and I do go back because it's on loop here on frame 22. But, when you look at it, you can see each frame, and that's starting over, putting the rope behind. Each frame, hands are up and down, right? That's what it looks like when it goes at full motion. I mean, that is some quick movements there, huh? A little weird one at the end with the hand. This is interesting for gameplay, I think. It does have a certain quality that could be distracting to opponents or maybe, the quick movements, but it's already built into the mechanics of the character. So having these quick frame rate movements can add a certain quality to the character, to your particular avatar. So at least this is what you can consider what a character can do, little quick movements for your avatar for some future concept, possibly. So again, tell me, where does this go on the curve? What grade would you give this kind of animation, and would you even use it in your future ideas? Well, let's move on to the next vertical slice. All right, here we are, number 20, stick handling. So this is hockey related. The stick handling in this scenario that I have animated is really a dryland activity, which a lot of people that play hockey don't even do dryland activities. And then when I say dryland, I mean like with a stick and a puck or ball or something as a way to simulate on ice activity. So in the stick handling, you can see that the hands are kind of locked together as if a stick were there. But the foot movement here is key. This is a kind of a real life, it is a real life scenario. Something that I do myself because in particular for hockey, things move faster than you can think. You have to react. Your body has to react before you can consciously act. And that's really how stick handling works, somewhat like dribbling a basketball, but even quicker and automatic. So the foot movement, the key here, you can stick handle without moving your feet, but for hockey, you will get your head knocked off if you do that, even if it's not full contact. You stick handle, you move. That is the reason. I have the movement in the leg. So as practicing stick handling, you should always be moving your feet. If you do not move your hands, then you don't move your feet. But if you are moving your hands, stick handling, you have to link them with your feet. This is obviously, I'm strongly passionate about this particular character in stick handling. So, it's something to take with a grain of salt, but it can be directly applied to a character on skates. You can see that if they were just moving forward, that does simulate on ice activity with maybe a little more side motion, which, it is and isn't a reality. So again, on the curve, hopefully this is higher than lower, even though you may not have known anything about how this could be in reality. So let's move on with the vertical slices. All right, here we are. Number 21, rope climb. Now, I know a lot of people have never climbed a rope. Again, this is something, you'll do in the Army. And I guess in the 1970s, they did it in high school. So they show in the movies. I never did it, and I went to definitely a sports-related high school. It is challenging. It is difficult. It can be dangerous because, competing, you want to get as high as you can, as fast as you can, and sliding down is without gloves can be dangerous, and wearing gloves climbing isn't going to work. Here you have the J hook. That's what I'm simulating with this foot over the other one. Unfortunately, I did mess up on the arm. It's supposed to be, climbing up and over each arm. But the idea here of the foot position and the slide and the hang, so I did have the root bone stay down. That way, when the hand is supposed to lock, I don't know why I didn't do it on the right hand, but I did on the left. It does actually simulate a rope climb quite realistically. So this is a good rendering, a good way to represent climbing a rope, something in gameplay which would be relevant. The only thing is the locking and unlocking of the J hook of the foot could work more with that. But in reality, the idea is that you would lift the legs up to get to the next position. So something to really consider on the curve as we move on to the final vertical slice. All right, here we are. Final one, 22. And I have for this, the flip turn. You can see swimming position. I'm going to change it up. I'll do frame by frame. Second frame, continuing. The already beginning to flip as if at the wall, upside down. And as you notice, already on 6, you're starting to twist a little bit here. And already up and over. And that's the key to keep the water out of your nose. You might want to blow some air out as you do it in this point on frame number 8, as if it were really happening. And at the end, you really do want to be in this position where you're already facing down. So there was a twist that occurred. And which is very nice here, is you want to get as streamlined as possible. So as you can see, my character is doing that. Now, I do have the root bone moving, but as you can see, once you move forward, it does unlock here, and continues to have a very kind of smooth. I did manually rotate these feet because it will not inherit rotation, but the rest of the shin and the forearm will continue straight forward. And so if I press play, kind of get an idea. It does have a very smooth kind of motion. Which is nice, and it is a nice way to end for all 22 of our vertical slices. So again, on the curve, the grading of the bell curve, tell me where this and all kind of line up. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? And what you want to take away into the future episodes you want to see, because we will be working on how to build these, export them, and all of the other aspects you'd expect from starting from scratch with creating these avatars in Blender. Again, vertical slice is the way to go to make things real. And I will talk to you again into the future. All right, now that episode 0 is done, on to the next.